Namaste and greetings. I am Nikita Bhardwaj, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान नई दिल्ली extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Learning. Today we are gathered here for day 24 of Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship, an online national summer school program, a 2-month online immersive legal awareness and action research certificate training course and internship program. This program is organized by IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, New Delhi. The chair for the program is Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI, and the fellowship lead advisor and expert legal hands-on sessions is Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, visiting senior fellow IMPRI. The distinguished experts includes Shri Sandeep Chachra, Professor Vibhuti Patel, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, Advocate Dr. Vaida Nayanar, Professor Mukul Ashar, Professor Uday Shankar, Shri Udit Mishra, Dr. Nivedita P. Haran, Shri Bhartendra Singh Baswan, Dr. Purnima Chauhan, Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida, Dr. Gladstone Xavier, Professor Aruna Roy, Advocate Audrey de Mello, Dr. Kaustav K. Bandyopadhyay, Advocate Mrinalini Deshmukh, Professor Sharmila Ghoke, Advocate Flavia Agnes, Dr. Rashmi Singh, Mr. Devaditya Sinha, Professor Swaran Singh, Advocate Lara Jasani, Professor Anil K. Gupta, Justice Ajit K. Singh, Mr. Himanshu Shekhar, Dr. Amar Jasani, Dr. Soumyadeep Chattopadhyay, Mr. Bilal Khan, Shri Rajiv Ranjan Singh, Shri Tikender Singh Panwar, Shri Shailesh Gandhi, Dr. Simi Mehta, Advocate Abdul Hafiz Gandhi, Professor Amita Singh, Dr. Ajay Gudavarti, Shri Amit Dubey, Professor Sanghamitra Acharya, Dr. Y. Suresh Reddy, Advocate Sanchita N. and Shri Surendra Tripathi. The conveners for this course are Dr. Simi Mehta, CEO and Editorial Director at IMPRI, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, Visiting Senior Fellow IMPRI, and Dr. Arjun Kumar, Director at IMPRI. I welcome you all to this enlightening deliberation and thank you for putting your time, energy, and efforts into truly understanding the vital role and complex intricacies of legal and public policy frameworks. The course will enable the participants to comprehend the nuances and technicalities of legal and public policy paradigms and therefore acquire theoretical insights along with technical skills to conduct research. We have also shared the course outline and reading resources document in your email for your kind perusal. We will be providing videos for each session for flexible learning at your pace and place. Before we start today's session, I would like to announce the housekeeping rules. It is imperative that you join the meeting on time. There will be a Q&A session after each presentation. Share your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. The questions must not be posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise. Refrain from making general comments in the question to save time. Our session for day 24 will cover topics of Health Policies and Laws by Professor Sanghamitra Acharya, Education Policies and Laws by Dr. Y. Suresh Reddy, Technology, Laws and Public Policy by Shri Amit Dubey. To start the session, I would like to invite Professor Vibhuti Patel for her opening chair remarks. Ma'am, please unmute.
Welcome, Dr. Sanghmitra Acharya, and also thank you, Nikita, for introduction, and thank you, Arjun Kumar, Simi Mehta, Dr. Shalu Nigam, Ms. Shweta Shankar, Ms. Vidita, Mr. Satyam Tripathi, Harsha Patra for putting this course together. And today we have this 8th week and 24th day of the session. We had a very, very enriched discussion over last 7 weeks, which highlighted various nuances of the interface of law and public policy. The previous session, on day 23, Dr. Ajay Gudavarti, he focused on state of law and public policy in Indian politics. He highlighted the state instrumentalities that mediate faster accumulation of capital and maintenance of power balance among different class interests. And he also provided various definitions and approaches to jurisprudence by different nation states following different trajectories of political democracy or welfarist redistributive agenda or majoritarianism. Legalism as a universal frame of governance is dependent on political moorings of the rulers and technical superiority of bureaucracy, which creates the standardized practices. He provided historical development of administrative systems, governance structures established by the British colonial state. And also in the post-colonial nation state, there is a generic problem of work ethics in terms of lethargy, corruption, and nepotism. That is the global discourse. He quoted Partha Chatterjee's question regarding development planning, and I quote, "Why planning invariably fails in all forms of state formations." He also mentioned the concept of pluriversal politics and pluriversal transitions by Arturo Escobar, Black American scholar and author of Making and Unmaking of Third World. He analyzed opening up of post-colonial economies in the 80s with new models of governance of flexibility as against the Western model, Weberian model based on idea of development. It was opposed by Professor Amartya Kumar Sen, who averred that you cannot map development with growth, and spoke about enhancing capabilities of the marginalized masses with affirmative action, social security, and social protection. He also unpacked these words. Sorry. He also Doctor, sorry, I can't see.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next up, I would like to invite Professor Sanghamitra Acharya, who will be taking up the session on health policies and laws. Professor Sanghamitra Acharya is the chairperson and professor at Center of Social Medicine and Community Health in Jawaharlal Nehru University, based in New Delhi. Welcome, ma'am, and over to you.
Nikita, I must thank the team at IMPRI who has put itself together to organize this very important fellowship program. And I also want to congratulate IMPRI and the team for putting this in state, and of course the people behind staging this very important training program for the young people in the form of this fellowship that IMPRI has taken on board. And certainly, therefore, I feel very privileged to be part of this conversation, and for which I really wish to thank Professor Patel, Dr. Arjun, and all of you who have got together to do this very important event. As I've been trying my best to follow on the other websites your sessions that have been held under this fellowship, I get a sense that the sessions have been extremely exciting, not only for the participants, but also for the resource persons. And therefore, I'm equally excited to be here. What perhaps I'm going to do is, at the onset, let me put the disclaimer that law and legal aspects are not really my forte. I haven't really been trained into it. But as we all know, legal safeguards, law, policies that are based on these legal frameworks and legal safeguards, I think cannot be done away with when we talk about any aspect of life, be it health, be it employment, be it any aspect for which we are adhering ourselves to. So what I'm perhaps going to do is take ourselves through some backdrops in which we locate health policies. How do they intersect with law? Just hold on, Abhay, I'll take some time, okay? So you'll have to come after. Sorry for this. And for this, I think we would perhaps want to begin with the whole idea that health is something which is embedded in the fundamental human rights. And therefore, when we are seeing from that perspective, I think it's very important to understand that what is it that we as part of the community, as individuals, we as a state, what is it that we need to do so that the attainment of the highest possible levels of health becomes an important and a relevant goal in today's time across countries. And therefore, I think we also need to take note of the fact that in this backdrop, in the backdrop of today, if we look at the global economic scenario, there is an existing gross inequality, particularly from the perspective of health status. And therefore, I think if we connect the divide, if we connect the gap between the developed and the developing countries, over and above the context of politics, I think the social and economic realms become very, very important, and therefore addressing the rules and regulations, addressing the legal safeguards, addressing or rather taking cognizance of the constitutional safeguards becomes very, very important, because that's one way through which we can make an effort to bridge that gap that we are experiencing. And for that, I think we need to take ourselves back to the most relevant event in the history, in the recent history, at which we all, I'm sure, are familiar with as the Alma Ata Declaration of 1978, which emerges as a fairly important milestone, which we would say has been very, very crucial in these days of the 20th century in the field of health, where to my mind the idea of primary health care becomes the very peg on which we think the health for all, which has been the mandate of the Alma Ata, can be attained. So when the Alma Ata conference gave the call for health for all, I think it was the beginning point for all the governments to be able to formulate national health policies, taking into account their own circumstances, social, economic, political, in order to initiate, design, formulate what would emerge as the primary health care. In fact, in our case, we know that the Ministry of Health identified the need for policy, which was very, very important to take cognizance of, especially in the backdrop of the then historical past that we had just about experienced. So in order to get to the point that health for all by 2000, which was proposed in 1978, the ministry kind of appointed a committee to review what was the need. How can the health sector gear itself to be able to attain the requisite status that we need as a country. So we probably initiate that thought process way back in 1983. The national health policy comes in over there. But let's take a pause and remind ourselves that while the health policy starts taking shape in 1983, the concerns with the country, particularly the developing countries, have been far more, if I may say, for health as compared to the population growth. And therefore, we see mid-50s giving us the family planning program as compared to what emerges for health almost roughly 3 decades later. So the point, therefore, is that the prioritizing of the need vis-a-vis how the state as well as the communities which are part of this state consider and place the requisite requirements, the requisite need in that sense. Nevertheless, the National Health Policy of 1983 was fairly optimistic and was empathetic to the needs of the health needs of the people, particularly keeping in mind those who were underprivileged, those who were poor, and therefore, the intent was to ensure health through the comprehensive primary healthcare services, if I may say so. So a strong thrust was to do away, or rather move away from the curative oriented Western models of healthcare to the preventive, promotive, and some kind of a rehabilitative approach to ensuring care. However, the efforts which were being put did not seem to take us to the goalpost that we had set for ourselves, and therefore there was a recognition that an additional strategy, or maybe a renewed strategy, could become more necessary to lift ourselves from those unacceptable health status of the people of the country at that time point. And not to forget what the series of committees which were set up for health, right from the Murray Committee in 1946 to the other committees like Srivastava Committee, Chopra Committee, that talks about they categorically emphasize on different kinds of aspects wherein health was being impacted. So it does take a while before we actually get down to formulating a policy to begin with. 1946, if we can think in terms of the Murray Committee, to 83, when we actually put a policy in place. The gap and the reasons for this prolonged gap perhaps becomes very, very important for us to take note of. So when we get back to the renewed policy which comes in 2002, the idea probably was to ensure that what we couldn't bring on board vis-a-vis what we had envisaged in terms of addressing the underprivileged and the poor, vis-a-vis the minimal, minimizing the biases if at all they existed, or if I may say, discriminatory policies due to age or gender or ethnic identities, social identities, which were preventing access to care. So cognizance of this, recognizing this, perhaps required that a new renewed policy document gets prepared. So according to this National Health Policy of 2002, one very important point, I think, which comes on board was the government and the health professionals were obligated to render good health care to the society perhaps in a more upfront fashion than perhaps the ways previous policies had been talking about. And I think that's what brings on board the enhanced contribution of the private sector, public-private partnerships takes place, the NGO sector, the CBOs, that sector becomes functional or rather more active in terms of ensuring some kind of partnership in addressing the need and improving the health status of the people. So by the time we come to the recent most health policy, as we are all familiar with, which comes to us in 2017, we also see that there are some priority areas which have been put in place, and I'm sure this perhaps is the first thing which each time we try to look at the policy documents brings us on board. The priority areas, not that they did not exist in the earlier policy documents, but they were the ones on the basis of which various committees which were taking cognizance of health were talking about. So we have the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan becoming a very integral part of the national health policy. There is an element of diet, healthy diet, and physical fitness is yet another important component in the 2017 policy. Lifestyle habits that become important, such as use of substance, use of alcohol, tobacco, etc., gets a focus. Also important is to note that even the traffic related conditions induced, health conditions induced by traffic related, for example, accidents, they become a very integral part of the policy. Violence against women becomes a very, very important thing. And even the mental stress, particularly which is associated by workplace, yet another peg that in 2017 policy talks about. And also the context of pollution, and I'm sure in the recent few years we've been particularly the levels of pollution that we've been experiencing have been fairly high. So that also becomes a big. So in some sense, I think when we knit together health versus policy versus putting the two together very conventionally, therefore, if health, as we all know, going by the WHO definition itself, maybe some kind of state wherein we have that feeling of well-being. We have that feeling which is incorporated not only physiological, because of physiological, physical conditions, but also because of social factors that make us think of that sense of well-being, that sense of being good. So and if you superimpose that with some kind of a systematic approach through which we can bring about certain decision-making processes to achieve the goals that we probably could have set for ourselves. So health policy, therefore, for a nation becomes a strategy, perhaps, by way of which we are in a position as a state to be able to channelize, to be able to direct how the knowledge, awareness about health conditions will be able to gear itself towards the set goals by way of connecting with whatever sources and resources which will enable us to make use of these this knowledge, this awareness, and therefore the related factors which enhance and help us utilize this. Okay? So, to my mind, therefore, all of this has certain kind of backdrop through which we are guided as part of, very strongly as part of the policy, if I may say, guidelines, policy directives. And I think that's where perhaps the legal and legislative safeguards in order to ensure health becomes very, very important. And if we really take count of, I think it cuts across all sectors with which we could be interacting in terms of academia, in terms of members of the society, in terms of part of the administration of the state. Say, for example, what I'm trying to say, how women, for example, may be affected by way of the legal safeguards, which are important, particularly in their role, if I may say, particularly in the reproductive role, for example, and therefore safeguarding their choices for the decisions they could be making for family building process, for example. So when we actually start looking at this intersection between the context of health, attaining good health, for instance, I think legislations are very, very important, and the Constitution itself has provided the safeguards and policy directives through the fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, which I'm sure I don't necessarily have to repeat over here. Nevertheless, I think these contexts connect us straight away with the idea of right to health and healthcare in particular. And I'm sure if we go through the series of cases which have been taken up on the legal platforms, the very Supreme Court has been fairly articulate, in terms of some of its landmark judgments. For example, if I may say, State of Punjab and others versus Mohinder Singh, Consumer Education and Resource Center versus Union of India, wherein it was established very clearly that right to health is fairly integral to the right of life under the Article 21, which the constitutional provision gives us. So I think similarly, we can probably also talk about Article 47, for example, to raise the level of nutrition of the communities, people within the citizens of the state, and also improving the standard of living. So it was also therefore important to connect these two, wherein the very public health system becomes important in order to address what are the provisions of Article 47. And I think this also therefore takes us towards, some kind of alignment, some kind of endorsement of the very declaration of the Alma Ata, wherein we are talking of, attaining that highest possible level of health, which becomes the key social key goal for any social change that the countries could be envisaging. Therefore, if we connect that with the genesis of, let's say, the laws which were important to steer health, to safeguard health, if I may say so, probably the public health law, if I could say, could be something wherein we see that interconnect of legal powers, responsibilities of the state in such a way that there is some kind of assurance that the health of the people will be prime in terms of the transactions of the policy formulations, transactions of the implementation of the policies that have been formulated will be supreme. The people's health, the health of the people will be what will become the core of these interactions, wherein the intersections could be vis-a-vis those who are providing care, the healthcare professionals, for example. The pharmaceutical industry, for instance, connects with the provisioning of care, and of course the people, the community for whom who would not only be providing the care users, but will also be providing the care providers, those who become the professionals, who become the functionaries, and of course the connect with the academia in terms of research, one, in terms of, again, training of the professionals who would be providing care and services pertaining to care, media, in fact, vis-a-vis information, creating awareness, etc. So these are some of the contexts in which I think we would probably want to see the scope of how we might want to understand the right to health, and also it's connect therefore with the right to healthcare. And if we really see this in the backdrop of perhaps the very first outline in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of way back in 1946, after Bore Committee had set, in our case, when it had already set in for a guideline perhaps to move forward. That's the state directive, perhaps in terms of the committee recommendations. So given by the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, we see that while the right to health was understood as an individual's civil right, the states were equally responsible to provide conducive conditions whereby the individuals will be able to enjoy this right. So there is a very strong intersection between what is individual's role in terms of attaining that good health, if I may say so, and also the state's responsibility. Particularly if we go by the Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I quote, it says very clearly that everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for health and well-being for himself or his family, and I'm sure we'll want to add herself and her family too, including food, clothing, cleanliness, housing, medical care, necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, motherhood, old age, and also in case of other lack of livelihoods in circumstances beyond the control of the individual. And there's particular emphasis on children, whether they're born in or outside wedlock shall enjoy the same social protection. So I think this was a fairly liberal kind of provision which safeguard international declaration or it provides us for the people, and of course which needs to get embedded within a set of individual socio-political conditions in which different states are located. And we know we have a series of such instruments which address health in one way or the other. Say for example, International Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights of 1966 very categorically suggests that the relevant rights of the people have to be exercised without discrimination in context of a universal right to health. So right gets projected in more than one way. Alma Ata, of course, we know how central health has been. Similarly, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women very categorically says that requires state parties, all stakeholders, to eliminate discrimination against women in respect of their health care. We also have children becoming a very important peg, and therefore the Convention on the Right of Children also says that children have to, the state has to ensure that they enjoy the best of health per se. So we have a series of these regulations or these instruments that take care of people with differently abled populations. They're also talking about how, in fact, the Declaration of Istanbul on organ traffic and transplant tourism very categorically talks about the coercion, which becomes very important when we are, getting in the realm of, organ transplant particularly. So within perhaps the framework of the Constitution of India, and these backdrops of international instruments, the health as a subject for the states becomes a subject for the states wherein they need to regulate and legislate different frameworks through which these can be, if I may say, materialized. But we know that very few states have been able to put in place the public health legislations, if I may say so. Also because even today, I mean, I'm sure we're delving on at the national level, especially when we're talking about the Epidemic Disease Act of 1897, more than 100 years old. For example, we're still using that for the public health emergencies. It's only perhaps, now that we may also connect with the Indian Penal Code in terms of how the state goes back to 1860, which perhaps seeks to protect the public health in the face of epidemics. And we've had a recent exposure to over 2 to 3 years in the form of COVID, and I'll come to it in a little while. Nevertheless, when we look at the post-independence laws which were put in place, fairly, at least comparatively progressive, and they have been making an attempt to address various concerns for public health. Although one might say they remained, some kind of a piecemeal kind of arrangements. Be it through the address that we could bring in vis-a-vis Article 14 or 15 or 17, 21 also perhaps, which have been mandatory, and there are other articles in the directive principle too. However, perhaps what was important to get a sense of how comprehensive public health law can really be evolved. And therefore, I think the ministry's role in terms of bringing the National Health Bill way back in 2009 in order to take cognizance of these gaps which were there and address them too. But what's important to perhaps take note of is what we've just had last year, the Rajasthan Right to Health Bill, which was kind of tabled in September 22, and followed by at the national level we had this National Medical Commission Amendment Bill, which was tabled on December 29. So, which also perhaps brings in a couple of important pointers for us to think about. As part of the National Medical Commission, we have this Board of Medical Examinations for Medical Sciences, which perhaps is proposed to be a fifth autonomous board. We also, this amendment is also suggestive of the fact that, if the institutions which are providing medical education, if there is some kind of jurisdiction, the jurisdiction of these colleges for any kind of legal litigation will be the national capital. There is also third pointer within this, which I think is very important to take cognizance of, which brings on board the realms of ethics and negligence in terms of the transaction of care. However, like we perhaps have our own, as has been in the past too, and I had pointed this earlier also, if we had Board committee telling us certain things way back in 46, we had the subsequent committees, the Mudliar, Srivastava, Chopra, etc. It took us almost 3 decades to come down to the first health policy formulation. And therefore, I think the transition from what's on the paper till it becomes a material which can be executed, it takes a while, and sometimes those gaps they remain inexplicable, or at least many a times they may not really give us a very, if I may say, satisfactory kind of an answer. I would also probably want to invoke Article 242 of the Constitution, wherein there is a provision that the legislature of a state may endow the municipal bodies with such powers, wherein we ensure, these bodies ensure that the schemes, the programs which are pertaining to public health, sanitation, conservancy, and solid waste management has is given that space. And I'm bringing this particularly because I want to get into not all these programs, but a couple of them wherein we see what are the realms of policy translation for people who are comparatively. That's perhaps the reason why I'm trying to bring this on board. So when we look at the municipal laws, it really takes care of, these such local bodies should ensure that there are establishment and maintenance of dispensaries, health services are expanded. There are regulations which kind of restrict trade, dangerous trades and dangerous practices. There is provision of water and there is sufficient, there are mechanisms which will avert dangers which are being posed to health. Vaccination should be done. There should be cleaning of public spaces, removal of noxious substance, disposal of night soil, surface rubbish. Also, when we're looking at the how do we provide for the ill people who are suffering from illnesses? So there are special medical aid and accommodation for sick people vis-a-vis dangerous diseases, and we've just had isolation, if I may quote, vis-a-vis COVID. So some of these provisions are there to be taken on board.
Just a change to this one. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought there was some that was for me. So similarly, there are mandates, for example, to ensure that vital statistics, for example, registration of births and deaths are done regularly. Regulations for slaughterhouses and tanneries, and I'm pointedly saying, bringing these, like I said, because these are the laws which are likely to be affecting those who are engaging in the form of work with hazardous occupations, for example. How the sanitation conservancy and solid waste management workers engage in these activities. And therefore, I think some of the acts which have been put in place and they need to be kind of reverted back and forth in terms of how much of the acts have benefited or what is the change that might be required for them. So beginning perhaps from what children have been accommodated with in terms of various acts. Children, I'm sure, are one of the most vulnerable populations if we go by the demographic characteristics. So Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act perhaps ensures that children will not be engaged for employment. We have infant milk substitutes, Regulation of Production, Supply and Distribution Act of 1992, which ensures the quality vis-a-vis what is the product which is being fed to the children. There's Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection Act of 2000. We have Mental Health Act of 87, which I'm sure has been worked upon in recent years also, similarly for the persons with disability. Even for the institutional population such as jails, we have the standard minimum rules for treating the prisoners, which very clearly directs in terms of how the health care for these inmates could be addressed. Say for example, sleeping accommodation to meet all requirements of health with considering the climatic condition, lighting, space, etc., windows with which would provide fresh air. Bathing spaces should be installed with shower, sanitary installation. So we do provisioning on by way of the guidelines fairly much addresses what has been listed for the universal human rights, etc. Also, therefore, I think even within the jail inmate
Oh, we have lost her. Hello, Professor Sanghamitra Acharya.
Yes, and just
Yeah. I think Professor Acharya gave a very comprehensive scenario right from the Board Committee report and your UDHR and various clauses in the 3 generations of global international human rights instruments. And what we see is the major question that we are facing currently when it comes to health policy is the budgetary allocation. When the WHO and the international bodies are asking for nearly 6% of GDP should go for health concerns, India's health budget is less than 1%. Second one is that of more and more privatization and commercialization of healthcare services after 1991 new economic policies. The new laws concerning PCP and DT prenatal preconception diagnostic acts, its judicious implementation is in great need, and it was freezed during the pandemic. Most of the laws regarding child health or nutrition or PCP and DT Act, or even the maternity facilities and reproductive rights, all of them were freezed, and that's why women had to suffer a lot. Then the question of Ayushman Bharat, how is it implemented? These digitally connected services, are they actually reaching the most marginalized people? These are some of the mind-boggling issues. And what we have is a overall commercialization. If you see, in last 30 years, the highest investment, foreign direct investment, has taken place in the health sector. So we have a super speciality at one level, but what we see is that the overall standard of health has deteriorated. And current controversy about the NFHS data, thing about which also Dr. Sanghamitra, I think we would like her opinion on it. Yeah. Yes, Dr. Hello, Acharya, please go
Sorry,
ahead.
Dr. Patel, I was disconnected and I could not really hear your question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, my questions were, one about the implementation of PCP NDT Act, number one. Number two, how Ayushman Bharat is, what kind of impact it has had on the marginalized sections. The third one is about the reproductive health needs and the 2-child norm. What impact it will have on, and it has had both during the pandemic and the post-pandemic period, and overall macroeconomic policy of commercialization of healthcare services. What are its implications, and the health budget, where it should be, social activists are asking for 3%, WHO has recommended 6%, and what we have is less than 1%. And health is on the concurrent list of at a national and union and subnational level, and the burden on the subnational. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I think there's a very poor connectivity at my end, so I've now connected with the phone. I hope this works for us. You're very right in asking me this question, which is pertaining to PNDT Act, evolving itself from the Medical Termination Act. I'm sure PNDT was something which was worked upon in order to ensure that, certain care, again, from the perspective of women, perhaps could be taken when it comes to safeguarding the women in their recruitment. So to my mind, while it's that safeguard in terms of ensuring that that the care could be provided within the frameworks which are important for the health, to ensure the good health of the women, there were also the flip side, which was in fact propelling the surreptitious outcomes of the need, if I had to terminate the medical pregnancy. So on one hand, while my understanding would be that there were certain protective measures which were extended, but it also gave way to the surreptitious deals that could have been done by way of not allowing that kind of space wherein that exposure, that awareness, whereby I go and make use of those services, particularly in case when these events were out of the wedlock, for one. The other I would want to bring in a provision, although that was very, very sensitively monitored and not revealing the secretaries. A lot of literature is suggestive of the fact that there were different means by way of which the sex of the child was being informed about, and therefore the terminations were also happening. And this is the point perhaps which I was trying to make the flip side of the act in terms of have gone.
Again, there is a problem.
Sorry, I think this is really becoming.
Yeah, it's okay. So I think we can take it up. And you have also given readings.
Bit of a problem, although it's not really. The other point, yeah, am I audible?
No,
audible,
because
right?
your voice is breaking, and in
point,
between we are not able to hear. Yeah, clearly.
Problem
of connecting.
Should I switch off the video? Maybe that
I can also do that. We all can do that. Yes. Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure this out, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
Is it better?
Okay. Yes. Now it's better.
Okay. So the other point which you raised in terms of the Ayushman Bharat, although if we look at the numbers which have been projected in terms of what Ayushman Bharat has done to the access to care, to begin with, the very gap which Ayushman Bharat does in terms of the provisioning that it will make, to start with the 5 lakh amount, if I may just bring that in. Particularly if you are looking at surgeries which would be costing beyond the stipulated amount, I'm sure the problems, particularly for the marginalized groups, whereby economic propensities are an important element, becomes a concern in that situation. While Ayushman Bharat as a program has kind of devoted itself for a number of pointers, which I'm sure as people interested in talking about health will perhaps want to be appreciative about. But the problem perhaps begins the moment we make an attempt to translate that in terms of how it becomes functioning, how to make it functional becomes a problem. To perhaps give a very, very basic kind of an example, listing of those of us who can access Ayushman Bharat. One might want to talk in terms of the available documents, the identity documents that each one of us perhaps who is eligible for Ayushman Bharat may be having. But the process of procuring those documents itself can become the biggest hurdle in being able to access that care. So while we do have documents suggesting that these are the provisions, we really do not have viable evidences to suggest whether the provisions which are carved out under the program have actually been able to make that difference for the people to whom they have been put in place. There are also evidences through micro studies which are suggestive of the fact that retrieving to be able to reach the point where access can be provided itself is a time consuming. There's a lot of time taken over in this whole process of reaching the care provider, which is actually a lot of it is due to the factor which perhaps can be associated with the realms of awareness and information. So while efforts are being made by the state, the paraphernalia which is required to ensure that access perhaps needs to be addressed in a particular way to be able to hit the target which perhaps the program seemingly has invoked upon. The other point, if I remember from you, is something, how do we see the budgetary allocations, therefore, for health? We've been perhaps talking about the budget and the lacunae, the gap that the budget has in terms of the social sector, both health and education for that matter. We still remain one of the lowest contributors vis-a-vis the GDP, the share of GDP to health, less than 2%. We are still stagnant there, and apparently the efforts to reach even 2.5 haven't really happened as of now. Although in the actuals there have been some increase vis-a-vis the last year, but the point is that where is that additional amount in the light of inflation, in the light of sector within which this additional amount has gone, also will reflect upon the total share, therefore, which is still pending to be elevated to the required levels. Most of the countries, even the closest neighbors that we have, seemingly are having a larger share than ours. So to me, I think when we're talking about the health budget, it becomes very, very important to be able to make that plea stronger, that the budgetary allocations for health necessarily have to be raised from where they are at the moment, for sure, as far as as possible if they can. And particularly, I think this is important in the light of the COVID that we've experienced a couple of years ago. That's been a very good example to inform us about how the health system that we have has not been really prepared to address, although we take a lot of pride in terms of suggesting that we were the first ones to be able to take note of the issue and put in place the system by way of the lockdown as the most quote unquote viable way of addressing it. But we've all seen the fallout of that I would say the decision to lock the country. The point, therefore, I'm probably gearing to, while we have probably managed to do some kind of strategic response, we've given some kind of strong strategic response to the health emergency by way of putting certain systems in place. We would for sure have been better had our allocations were GDP share was better than what it is as of now. So the other thing which probably becomes important is to bring on board here vis-a-vis the perspective of legal safeguard, and I think it's important for us to take note of, is also when we engaged with vaccination, for example, and I'm sure human rights vis-a-vis coercion versus choices, etc., get built when we're talking about when we're making this argument. The point which I want to probably bring in over here is what happens to the people in the gender spectrum who happen to be not engaging in terms of the binaries that we talk about, men and women. What happens to those of us who are who have the identity of belonging to transgender community. Initially, as I recall, and as some of us have documented too, there were queues for men and there were queues for women for vaccination. And even now, there are washrooms for men and the washrooms for women. We don't really, in most places for sure as of now, there are no provisions for those of us who do not belong to either of the two categories. Similarly, for vaccination, it took a very long time, not before December, that there were spaces where members of this community could go. So the gap which perhaps comes in terms of being able to access care, I think becomes very important in terms of the care that could have been provided if this divide was divide vis-a-vis men's queue and women's queue and nothing in between. The care, perhaps provisioning of care vis-a-vis vaccination in this case could have been better still for the people. And I think that's where perhaps it becomes extremely important to get into this kind of understanding. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Ma'am, there's a time concern. Could you please wrap it?
Yeah. So I'm in fact, I was just kind of trying to respond to ma'am's this thing. So I'll probably just end in another minute or so. So going by this kind of concern that we have for people who are vulnerable, women, like I said, children, of course, women, like I said, and we were talking about, I think it becomes very, very important for taking note of this. And in this context, I would also probably want to invoke all this that had been happening vis-a-vis the health of the women. Also in the light of how the health of women becomes a concern even before the Bora Committee tells us about the status of women in the country. B.R. Ambedkar expressed the concern for women's health way back in 1938 when he was deliberating in the Bombay Legislative Council discussion, wherein he made two very important points, bringing in the disability of parents, which was acknowledged as a prime reason for impacting, which would impact on children, both mentally, physically, and financially. And therefore, he initiates the call on why women should be allowed to make choices vis-a-vis what we today recognize as reproductive rights. Termination of pregnancy to bring in that ways, to bring in that fold. The other important thing, perhaps, is during his tenure as the labor welfare commissioner, and the study which he conducts for Mica Mines under the Mica Mines Labor Welfare Fund bill, which informs about how environmental conditions and therefore also the occupational hazard by way of engaging in the mines has created illnesses, respiratory illnesses among the workers, which need to be addressed. The women need to get the maternity benefits, the working hours in a day, number of days which were to be worked were restricted to 8 hours, and a day which would be off. So, and all of this comes back when we are talking about the Alma Ata Declaration. Alma Ata actually takes care of how women vis-a-vis their health become the maternal and child health. So the point therefore I'm making is these legal safeguards necessarily orient themselves towards the vulnerable and the marginalized in services, women being one. The translation has to be very, very empathetic, very, very sensitive. Otherwise, the translations remain blank, and we don't really get to the objectives and the goals which we set in as state or even as communities. much. And I think I've overshot the time. Thank you so much. Over to you, Prof.
Yeah. Yes, Nikita, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering all the questions so elaborately. Moving forward with the next session, we have Dr. Y. Suresh Reddy, who will be taking up a session on the topic Education Policies and Laws. Dr. Y. Suresh Reddy is the director of SRF Foundation based in Gurgaon. Welcome, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, ma'am. And I would like to know that so how much time is there for my session? Now it is 12, almost 38. And accordingly, I can plan accordingly. Just
Sir, accordingly 45 minutes. So you can speak for 25-30 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And let me share the screen. That is share screen.
Recording in progress.
Yes. So good afternoon all. Just I will be spending next 25 minutes like that talking about Indian education policies and laws. That is the theme of the session. And as we know that the modern Indian education, what we are talking about, is the founder and the father of the Indian education system was Lord Macaulay. We're talking about way back in 1830. So it is almost all before independence. 115 years before, Lord Macaulay introduced this modern education system, which mostly we are following, but in between we are trying to modify it and to suit to the present system context and kind of thing at different intervals. As you all aware that in 1947, when we got the independence and we have our own constitution kind of thing. Since then, we have been trying to update our education system with various policies and recommendations and also various acts also. So to begin with, after independence in 1948-49, the first time there is a University Education Commission which was constituted and to give some recommendations for the higher education space. I don't spend much time on the past, what happened, and it is more kind of to give the perspective, the historical perspective, how it is today's education policy, how it evolved at different levels at different stages kind of thing. Followed by in 1952-53, especially at the secondary education level, to give some recommendations to bring some reforms. So Secondary Education Commission was constituted in 1952-53 during the first when the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister. It was happened there. And 64-66, there is an education commission, the first time, the Comprehensive Education Commission, to give the recommendations for the education system on the Dr. Kothari Commission. This is famously known as the Kothari Commission recommendations. When you talk about any education policy, the first time we talk about, that is the recommendation given with the Kothari Commission, in 66 kind of thing. So based on the Kothari Commission's recommendations, our first national policy on education, that is 1968. That is happened to be my birth year also, 1968. That is a coincidence for me. But the first national policy on education was announced in 1968. So followed by, especially 1976, when the Indian Constitution was amended. Till such time, the education is part of the state list. We have the 3 lists under the Constitution. One is the union list where the parliament can make laws, and the state list where the state assemblies can make laws, and concurrent list where the both state assemblies and parliament can make laws. So here till 1976, the education was the state list. After 76 onwards, as per 42nd Constitution Amendment, it became the concurrent list. Both the state and the parliament can make laws on the subject of the education. That is one change was happened there. And in 1986, when Rajiv Gandhi was Prime Minister of India, at that time, the second policy on education is an improved version of our first policy. This was started and given the more focus on the access to the education, how to give the access to education for all sections of the people, both the school and college level. That was the priority and focus. Then when Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister of India in 1992, there was a program of action, that is, we call it as program of action 1992. That is some kind of improvements we brought in there in 1986 policy. And now today we are in 2023. So there is a new education policy which was announced by the present government under the Prime Ministership of Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi. And this is, if you see, actually after 34 years of the second national education policy, that is the 86. So in 2020, the third national education policy was announced. After 34 years of the second policy was made. So this is the chronological order of evolution of the national education policy. In between, in the year of 2009, which was not mentioned here, 2009, there was a Right to Education Act. That is, Act was introduced in 2009, which came into effect from 2010, 1st April onwards. So as per the Right to Education Act, actually it guarantees the free and the compulsory education for all the children, those who are in the age group of 6 to 14 years age group. So they have to be in the school, either it is in a private school or government school, but children should be in the school in their neighborhood. That was the focus on this Right to Education Act up to class 8, from class 1 to class 8. And there is a free and compulsory education. And this act also provides 25% of reservation in the private schools. So to bring the what is it called it as inclusivity, to bring the inclusivity, this provision has been made, and according to this provision, different state education department, state governments, so they enacted their respective state education acts, and this provision has been promoted in different states. So apart from that, the main focus is say that it also prohibits all unregulated schools. So there was a lot of mushroom of the schools across the country run by the individuals or institutions which were not recognized and which were not maintained the standards in terms of the facilities, in terms of the quality, in terms of the teacher-pupil ratio and all those things. So this act abolished all the unregulated schools, giving them some time. Just see that within this time period, you can meet the RT Act standards. If otherwise, you can close the schools, kind of thing. So before this act, a lot of non-formal educational centers or institutions, they used to be there. All these were prohibited after this act. This was the highlight of the RT Act 2009, we call it as. When come to the national education policy, the 2020, what we are talking about, this is the third policy with 2.5 years we have completed so far after this act was launched. Sorry, this policy was launched. So what are the key principles driving this policy? So whatever the actions we take at the school education level, higher education level, so we keep in mind these principles, either we are following or not. Whether our actions or initiatives or setups are promoting these policies or not. That was the guiding direction or principles, this policy articulates. The first and foremost, it talks about the respect for diversity and local context. So as you know, India is the subcontinent. And here, so from north to south or east to west, we are not the same. So we have different cultures, different education systems, different boards and different communities, and everybody is too much of diversity and the context variation kind of thing. From that point of view, that whatever you are doing, that under this policy, respect the diversity and local context. That is what one has to look at it. So I want to give an example also, giving the education the local mother tongue, up to class 5. I just am giving the example for that also. Equity and inclusion, and equity inclusion, you're talking about different sections of the people, the gender equity, I talk about social equity, and certain groups which are still deprived of a good quality education away from the schooling system or college system kind of thing. And also at a higher education level, how to bring that, at least school level we can achieve something, but higher education still a lot of gap is there. How to bring that equity and inclusion. That is the one principle this policy promotes that. And the community participation to ensure that their ownership and participation in the education system and as a stakeholder kind of thing. So whatever the things you start and do their ground level, is the community participation element is there or not? If it is not, then how to ensure that? The use of technology, this COVID shut the schools almost all 700 days. The education was halted, it was stopped. But it is not that every case, especially the high-end private schools, high-end higher education institutions, they used to run the program virtually because they are equipped with the machines and connectivity and capabilities kind of thing. On the other end, also the students used to have this kind of luxuries their home. But when talk about the lot of government schools operational in the rural setup and the slum setup and the budget private schools, they are the huge sufferers in absence of the schools physically operational. Virtually also they are deprived of their education. And also seeing the technology advancement and the opportunities, the national education policy suggests that try to integrate technology in all of our interventions, especially if you want to do the teacher training program, and if you want to do the any open universities or distance education modes and kind of thing, or if you want even physical classrooms also, if you want to teach the children education in teaching learning process, how to use the technology as an element, as a medium and kind of thing. So this is the given the more emphasis and focus on the use of technology when you're promoting the education in the country. Emphasize the conceptual understanding rather than the rote learning, and to move away from the rote learning system, it promotes the conceptual understanding. For that, even the assessment systems, instead of is a summative assessment systems and going forward the essays and the kind of thing where you can mug up and rote learning and reproduce the things on the white paper. Rather than the conceptual understanding, going for the concept systems, the MCQ multiple choice questions and kind of thing, or it's a formal assessment kind of thing, different ways. So conceptual understanding is the priority. That is what it talks about. Accordingly, you can bring the change your curriculum delivery as well as assessment systems. Unique capabilities and recognize the each individual is the child is the special, unique. So rather than using the blanket strategy for all children and all treating us the same kind of thing. So it promotes that recognizing and identifying the each student is special, and accordingly the child also have the options opportunity to choose the subjects, moving away from the stereotype of the art stream, science stream, or commerce stream, instead of like that, get the child choose that subjects from all these streams kind of thing, as per interest kind of thing. That is the other principle it promotes, and the critical thinking and creativity to encourage logical decision making and innovations and those things, and the continuous review for that to improve the education system. It promotes that across all levels of the education system, you people are keep on doing the research and assessing kind of thing with education experts and try to bring the new reforms and changes. These are the guiding principles for the actions by the various governments or institutions while implementing the national education policy. And this education policy, when you want to understand a little bit more, you can divide into two levels. One is the school education level and one is the higher education level. The school education level, currently we have the current system, 10 plus 2 years. There is a class 1 to 10 and the plus 1 and 2, the 2 years is there. This is the current education system we are following before NEP 2020. Now NEP 2020, what it says that, it has divided the education system into 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So it included 3 years of the preschool education, we call it as our Anganwadi education, otherwise we call nursery education, whatever the name we call it as. So 3 years means instead of education starting from the 6 years, at the age of 6, it can start at the age of 3 years. So from 3 years to 18 years of age group, that is we are talking about covering the 15 years of duration of education. So when you say 5 years means the 3 years of preschool and class 1 and 2. This together we call it as a foundational stage. So that is treated as a separate stage and separate curriculum framework for that. So that is one first level, foundation level. So this is called, currently is called Foundation Literacy and Numeracy program is going on currently. By 2025, all children who are studying in Anganwadi, preschools, nursery schools, and class 1-2 children, they should attain the curriculum objectives by 2025 through the Foundation Literacy and Numeracy program is going on. Then class 3 to 4, 5, these are the preparatory stage, what we call it as. Class 6, 7, 8, they call it as a middle school stage. And 8, 9, and 10 and 11, this called as the secondary stage. That is how the education system was divided into the 4 levels. So earlier there was 2 levels to 4 levels. And as per this structure, across the country, different state education boards have to bring that structural changes in the respective state, because it is education is a concurrent subject. That is what currently happening. It is going on. At a broad level, if you want to say that the top row, you can see that the ECCE, that is Early Childhood Care and Education for All by 2030. So like Education for All, it was a slogan given earlier. Now it is called ECCE for the all, means the children of the 3 to 6 years old children, they have to be there in the ECC setup by 2030 with 100% of participation, and achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio in school education by 2030. At school education means up to +2 level, so nursery to +2 level. So 100% gross enrollment we have to achieve. That is how can you achieve it? So one is the special educational zones, wherever the some pockets of the country where the gross enrollment is still not up to the level kind of thing, like tribal areas or hilly areas, or it is the remote areas and kind of thing, or some social groups where they are more concentrated but not fully enrolled in the schools, such areas. It's called special education zones. So like in business terms, special economic zone. So like here, special education zones, and a gender inclusion fund. The KGB is Kasturiba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas, to ensure that girls, those who missed the education, to bring them to through KGBs to ensure their participation, Bal Bhavans, tracking students, especially the migrant population. So how do we ensure that they are continuing education point of view? So like this, achieve 100% gross enrollment, that is the focus of this thing. A new curricular and pedagogy framework as per the levels 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. It is not one blanket curriculum framework. The how to for different levels of education at the school level, we should have a different curriculum framework to drive it. There is one focus is there. The medium of instruction, it should be the mother tongue. It is the policy promotes that up to class 5. So we give the education mother tongue, and also there should not be any exams in class 3, 5, and 8. Earlier, as per the Right to Education Act, there was no exams up to class 8. So because of that, there was a quality deterioration has happened there. But NEP talks about that there should be exams at a class 3, class 5, class 8 level. That is what it is promoting. Of course, class 10, 12 already exams are there. So this is the 3 more exams added. But it should not be like assessment on rote learning basis kind of thing, but how to test the conceptual understanding of the chain. So, and also at national level to promote the best practice and assessment of the school education, there should be a center should be started in the name of the Parak, that is one thing also is promoted. And life skills beyond the academics, typical academics, how to promote life skills as problem solving skills, critical thinking, design thinking process. So these are the skills which also promotes the national education policy. So these are the broad changes promoted by the NEP under 2020 for the school education level. When it comes to the higher education, we'll talk about undergraduate, postgraduate research. This is the higher education we're talking about, where it promotes that the how to build the international collaborations. So to open the doors and welcome the international collaboration, international universities, to collaborate with the national universities and kind of thing, how to promote good quality education. And also the gross enrollment ratio, 50%. That means all children who are completing +2, they are not going to the undergraduate, postgraduate courses kind of thing. How to ensure that at least 50% of the children who graduate from the +2 level, they can reach to the 50% of the course enrollment ratio on the UG and PG level. That is the focus. And holistic and multidisciplinary education. Again, I said that you give the lot of choices to the students, not a stereotype kind of arts, commerce, and sciences kind of thing. They can choose subjects interdisciplinary, different streams kind of thing, and follow the credit system. So that is one thing it promotes this at higher education level. And research and innovation, that is the major focus. And all the higher education institutions can be divided into 2 kinds of things. One is that the universities which focus on the teaching focus kind of thing. Some universities can go exclusively on research part, rather than the teaching, more research oriented kind of thing. So currently what is happening, so if both things are happening, teaching and research in the same universities kind of thing. So instead of that, there can be exclusive research universities and exclusive teaching universities kind of thing. There is other changes promotes curriculum flexibility and dismantling of the UGC and the AICT. So currently, the UGC governing some universities and the AICT is governing some institutions, especially the engineering institutions, technical institutions kind of thing. So now dismantling these 2 bodies, create the one body, which is the frame the policies and the framework and guidelines for the higher education institutions. That is the another change the NEP 2020 promoted. As I said earlier, if you see the digitalization of the teaching learning process, that is the focus, distance learning and open learning to attract the, if you want to see achieve 50% of a gross enrollment ratio at the higher education level. So we can't achieve it just only through the physical mode of education with setting up the colleges and universities kind of thing, but also we promote very extensively that distance learning and open learning. That is another thing it promotes. Technology in the education, already I mentioned to you people. The encouragement to use Indian languages. So to make ease of learning for the students at higher education level, not necessary English as a medium and kind of thing. So as much as possible to encourage the use of Indian languages as a medium of education. That is another thing it promotes. Financial assistance to the students and the skill development vocational education. This is the lot of emphasis given to the vocational education, promoting the National Vocational University and the state-of-art kind of vocational training centers, and also in regular education also how to integrate the skilling program as a subject to choose by the students as a part of the regular course curriculum with credit system and kind of thing. So these are the things suggested with certain timelines to follow and ensure. And by 2040, so it's a 20 years of framework, whatever the policies we articulated in the NAP 2020 in a staggered manner at different levels. By 2040, we can achieve all these things, whatever we are talking about at school education level, higher education level. If you want to see, I want to just throw some more light on the higher education space. If you see the top, the left side, the block. So higher education institutions will be transformed into large multidisciplinary universities, colleges, and clusters. So rather than limiting themselves to the only few courses and the kind of thing, just to include the all subjects and the multidisciplinary, where the children get opportunities of choosing the fine arts or main arts or commerce or science or any other subjects. That's why multidisciplinary universities. And a rationalized institutional architecture for higher education, that is okay. Already we're talking about that. Here you see the third block, research intensive universities, teaching intensive universities, and autonomous degree granting colleges. So like that, you segregate the universities like this kind of categories and make them specialized in that area, research area, the teaching area. That is the being that. And also in next 15 years of time, so by 2035, so we can phase out the system of affiliated colleges. Now what is happening? There is a university, there's a university campus is there. So within the university campus, we have the different departments. There is one part. So apart from this main campus, there are many colleges are affiliated to the this university department. So in this case, we are talking about make every college, take away the affiliation system and make every education institute can become a university itself and follow the multidisciplinary approach. So even autonomous body, that kind of thing. That is the thing it promotes at the new education at the higher education level. And then at the UG level, there's one more change we're talking about. If you see that, you should have the 3 years or 4 years of UG course and give the choice to the students. They can leave the course at any point of time. No need to be there for 3 years or 4 years and the kind of thing. If somebody wants to leave after completion of 1 year, you can give certificate, rather than the degree, you can give certificate. If somebody wants to leave at a 2 years level, completion of 2 years, you can give the diploma. And you can, somebody wants to leave at 3 years completion of the course, you can give the UG degree. If somebody completes the 4 years course, you can give the honors degree. So like that, the exit options are given to the students at the end of the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. This is the one flexibility for the students. At the same time, choosing the subjects while he is studying the course. So multiple subjects as per his interest kind of thing or interest kind of thing. So like that, exit of the college or choosing of subjects. So wide flexibility given to the students. This is the one beauty of this policy. But in practice, it is just started at the higher education level. It takes its own time. All institutions, they have to take their own internal structural adjustments and guided by the apex bodies of the UGC and AIC. Still, they are there. They have to be merged also. They have to develop facilitate this kind of structural change in the existing system. It will take its own time. So this is what it is happening now. I stop it here in terms of sharing about education policy from my side. I would love to take up any questions are there from the people, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful and erudite session. I request Professor Vibhuti, ma'am, to share her remarks.
Ma'am, your mic is in mute.
Yes, Dr. Reddy, it is very educative session because this is the first time in last 25 days we have discussed such a comprehensive description of the evolution of Indian education system was there, and your chronology was extremely useful. My question is mainly about the private higher education. Currently, we have 1,068 universities. So just 3 years back, we had only 700 universities. So more and more privatization is taking place. What are its implications for the massification of education? Number two is that NEP, at a subnational level, some states are vigorously implementing it, revising syllabus. In Maharashtra, it is happening at a very fast pace, but there are many states which have not even started the exercise. So there is going to be a lot of unevenness in implementation of NEP 2020. So what will be the challenges the students will be facing, both at a school education and higher education level? Third one is that internationalization of education, which is taking place right from preschool to higher education. What challenges do you see for the India and India as a destination for higher education? Does India have a bargaining power in this whole competition of internationalization? The digital divide you mentioned, but how can we have a last mile connectivity when it comes to digital education, digitalization of education? And also the public sector investment, the state investment in education is less than 3%, where both Kothari Commission as well as the National Education Policy had recommended 6% of GDP, but we have not reached that target. So, and status of Hindi, again, the southern states have their own way, response to Hindi being treated as a link language. So these are my 6 important questions I would like to throw you.
Yes, ma'am. Just you remind me. I will answer your first 4 questions. On the 5th and 6th, you can remind me again. I lost that thing there. So when come to the first thing, you said that the private universities number has gone up and kind of thing. It is not just only the private universities and also private schools as well at school education level.
Yeah.
So if you see the phenomena for last the 15-20 years time. So these institutions have a mushroom and the growing and kind of thing as per the growing demand from the parents. So if you see the private universities, private schools are the fee paid. And the fee paid means those who are affordable, then only they can go to these institutions and kind of thing. So here the parents, they want to give their children the good quality of education. So in the existing public education system, if it is not able to accommodate the popular demand, the growing demand of the education, so they don't have any alternative. In this process, so whatever the institutions are coming up, actually it is taking care of the access issue. And access issue, that to be those who are able to affordable, they are getting benefited. I am not saying that they are great compared to the public education system, but as part of the facilities point of view, the luxury point of view, the proximity point of view, and they are very close to the thing, and it helps them, from that point of view, they are required, the private education is required from the parents' point of view. At the same time, it promotes some kind of good competition, the system. So one was it is ease for the less privileged and deprived sections, they can get the opportunities in the government system as well. If everybody goes there, they may be pushed out. So like that, it is one way it is good. We have to encourage and drive it kind of thing. Then second question you were talking about the implementation of the NAP. So national education policy, it is a policy framework. It is very easy to make policy. It may take, taking the recommendations from the educational experts and the institutions, the common public and various stakeholders. And making the policy is very easy. Like, we are making a resolution, like a New Year resolution. So I want to be this year, by end of December 31st, I wish to achieve this thing. I want to do this thing. I want to transform like this, You can make a resolution. You can put it on the paper. That is okay. But to make it happen is the toughest challenge. So here, education being a concurrent subject, and also it is the involvement of the national government and state governments, and as per the policy, it has given the different timelines also, 20 years framework. So policy is there with the 20 years framework. Within this 20 years time, these education departments at the different levels. They have to make by allocating the budgets, by bringing the structural reforms within the education system, and by way of recruiting the teachers, by way of developing the curriculums, by way of developing the assessment systems. So it is a by way of starting the new institutions. This all requires a dedicated and the drive, the people with the roadmap and allocation, they have to, unless until it is not there, it will remain as a policy, So like that, again, another policy will come after 20 years after time. And again, we talk about, this we have achieved it, we can go this like it is a journey. So in this journey, some may be moving faster, some may be lagging behind, somewhere in between kind of thing. That will happen like that. But it is requires will, political will, and the allocation. And talk about the international education point of view. So now the world is it's become a small, because of the though we have the physical boundaries, but we don't have the any boundaries in terms of the learning, connectivity point of view, the innovations, creativity, learn from each other, technology advancement kind of thing. How we can leverage each other's strength. So from that point of view, we are good at something, and somebody is good at something, So for example, doing the research. So doing the research point, quality research point of view, how we can do that. And also collaboration with the industry. It's not just only academic collaboration kind of thing. Collaboration with the industry across the globe, and the new academic industry-academic collaboration that can happen within India and outside India. It gives the doors open for the people and faculty and the teachers. That is, and also how to bring the cost of education down. Somebody wants to go and study in a foreign country, they may have to spend more money. If they have collaboration with the foreign universities, we can have the exchange program. They can come here, we can go there, like that. It also minimize the cost of education kind of thing. And the public sector investment, what you said, ma'am, we keep on telling that 6% of the GDP we have to allocate for the education. It is distant dream. We always every budget announce. Again, we say that wow, this is wow, not wow feeling. So is it like every government every year not able to meet the 6% of GDP allocation kind of thing because of resource constraint, the priorities and focuses and all those things. So where somehow the private sector is pitching in, bringing in some contributions there, but especially public sector investment is still in a distant dream. That is still we have to fight for that. With advocacy and with the pressure groups and kind of thing. So we have to look at it, ma'am. See, these are the 4 questions. 5th and 6th, I am not sure what I missed out those things, ma'am. Your mic is in mute, ma'am.
One is Hindi as a link language and the opposition from certain states. And second one is about that more than 50% of the positions are vacant in the public sector, whether it's the schools or colleges or universities, tremendous staff crunch. So how will the students who can't afford the aided courses, which are affordable to the common people?
Yeah, when you say the language, ma'am, just you see the way the children more comfortable to communicate what are their thoughts in mind and kind of thing, especially at the early age in mother tongue. There is no doubt. It is not about Hindi, the mother tongue. Up to class 5, the children, even at our home also, when you come to the offices, we speak the English with the purpose of the job and kind of thing. When you go home, and when you talk to our own children kind of thing, they love to speak in their own mother tongue. And the easy way of communicating kind of same thing at the school level. The Hindi part, maybe some other parts of the country, southern parts of the country, there may be some resistance of learning Hindi. Even I studied Hindi as a subject, but not with, I don't say love and passion, to pass the exam. So if you see, to pass the exam, 20 marks is enough for the Hindi subject for us. I am from Andhra. So that point of time, other subjects, 35 marks is required. So as a part of to introduce Indian subject to learn kind of thing, we learned it. But even I said, the teachers who are there, they are also not capable of teaching Hindi the way the native Hindi teacher teaches here kind of thing. So that is how it is given that you should learn, but also you give the scope for you instead of neglecting kind of thing. This happened like that. So mother tongue or Hindi as a language is very much essential to mix with the across the country if you want to move around, and it's the universal word kind of thing. When you talk about the faculty, 50% of the positions are vacant. What is happening, ma'am? This is a multi-grade teaching or a multi-subject teaching. At the school level, it is happening. At the university level also. At the university level, a lot of litigations of recruitment. I am not saying that issue. The issue is even government wants to recruit, but the court cases are huge, and it drags and delays and kind of thing, recruitment point of view. But that school level, instead of the court cases, it is more kind of the allocation of the resources, the deployment of the teachers, the fund crunch kind of thing. You have to see differently at school level, at higher education level. So again, if there is a political will, the political will can make a lot of difference. So political, like in Delhi, the school education system, whatever the government is doing that, or maybe like in Andhra, what education government system is in school level, they're doing that. Some other states also. So if there's a strong political will is there, this can be resolved. It's not a hard and fast rule kind of thing.
Yeah,
so that is
all of
again,
us are paying 2% professional tax at source, and nobody is giving. Everyone is giving. So
Yes.
giving is there.
Yes.
Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan funds are also huge. So many states have unutilized money.
Yes, ma'am.
Not
Yes.
a question of fund.
Yes, yes. So I can stop it here, ma'am, and thank you for giving this opportunity. I hope this is benefits to the students.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening insights. Your expertise and knowledge is truly broadened our understanding in this area.
Thank you, Nikita.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Can I leave, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Moving forward with the next session for the day, we have Shri Amit Dubey, who will be taking up a session on the topic Technology, Laws and Public Policy. Welcome, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Nikita. Thanks for the opportunity to Arjun sir and IMPRI. It's always a pleasure to speak to your students. Just give me a second, please. Sharing my screen.
Sir, can you hear us? Amit, sir, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please.
I can hear you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So first of all, as we all know, that yesterday the data privacy bill has been placed in Parliament for discussion, and this will definitely create lots of new opportunities as well as security frameworks for organizations to secure their data, and a clear guidelines that if this data breach happens, what all kind of penalties would be there. Why do we need to protect data, and why such kind of bill is so important to any country? This is something which we need to understand from basics. I hope you all can see my screen.
No, sir.
And I'll just do.
So we can
You can't see?
You can see your browser.
Yeah, we can see.
So you can.
Yeah, I'm showing my browser only because I'm running.
All right.
Now. So I have just typed privacy.net/analyzer on my screen, and I'll request each one of you to please do that, so that you can also test with me some internet issue. Why is there? Again, privacy.net/analyzer.
अमित सर आपका वीडियो ऑफ कर लेंगे तो क्या पता, हमें वॉइस भी कट के आ रहा है.
It's very slow.
ओके सर मैं स्क्रीन ले लूं. अच्छा सर का कनेक्शन ड्रॉप हो गया. ओके अच्छा यू कैन ओपन अ ब्राउजर जो सर बोल रहे थे ना, ब्रिंग ऑन स्क्रीन. Yes, can you hear us, sir?
I'm deliberately keeping my camera off so that we should have enough bandwidth. Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect now, sir. Yes.
Okay, so I'm keeping my camera off so that we can save some bandwidth. Here I have just opened privacy.net/analyzer. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
You all can try it on your browser. Once you open this website, there'll be a button called Start Test. Just click this button and it will start showing you some of the information which has been taken from your device, mobile phone or laptop, silently without your permission. They didn't ask any permission, and this information will be visible to you. This information includes your IP address. This, because we know your IP address, we can tell your exact location. This information includes where we have opened this link and whether it is an iPhone, Android phone, Windows system, or a Mac system. It will also tell you whether what is your browser, whether it is Safari, Chrome, what is its version, the resolution of your screen, and the status of your battery of your mobile phone or laptop. I hope you can see in your browsers. You have to test it. Each one of you, please do that. And why it is so important? Because every day we all are clicking different kind of links and we are sharing such kind of information to all those people. They can misuse it. They are misusing it many times, and we never realize it is going to use against us. I think there's some issue with my internet again and again. I hope I'm audible still, guys.
Yes, sir, you are.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I did a campaign a few weeks before on Z Business, having one Android phone, one iPhone with me. So I invited those phones from audience. I tried to book a cab from Film City to airport. And here you can see my screen? My IP address, my location, my SIM card provider, whether Vodafone, BSNL, Reliance, whatever I'm using, and then my device type. I'm using laptop, Windows. My browser is 115 Chrome. Resolution is this, and my battery is 61%. Now you can see in your phone also while clicking this link, and there are multiple tests like autofill leak test, user account test, browser capability test, fingerprint analysis, and you could all do this to know more about your data privacy standards. And this is so important because I was running a campaign on Z Business and I invited phones from the audience. I got one iPhone, one Android phone, booked a cab from Film City to airport at the same time, from the same location to the same location. An iPhone always gave me 15 to 20% higher fare. Then I invited two Android phones, one which is 20% or less charge, another which is 80% or above charge. And I did the same exercise with both Android phones, and I found the phone which has less battery was always giving me more fare for the same distance at the same time. And this we tried multiple times, showed it to the audience. Next day, I got an email from both these apps. Those are popular in India for booking a taxi. They sent me an email that it could be a coincidence. Please don't spread such kind of thing. So again, we repeated the same exercise. Next day, another show. And then eventually both these players, they said sorry. They sent an email to us that yes, there was a bug and we are fixing it. But this cannot be a bug. This was a deliberate attempt to use your information so that they can make more money and profile the people. Hello. So that is the way this data is misused, and not only these players, there are multiple other e-commerce website and applications that you use. They might be profiling you because if you are using an iPhone or an iPad or a costly device, probably they know that what kind of person you are, and that is something which is used against you. I'll do another exercise. Here this is Play Store, from where you install applications, right? This is Play Store, and I'm typing Facebook here. Mostly we all have Facebook in our mobile phone. This is Facebook app from Meta. I clicked on it, and then I'll take you here, see details option. And there Facebook has accepted that what all data they have been collecting. Facebook collects our location all the time. And this has been happening since many, many years. Approximate location and precise location both. So they know our cell ID, they know our GPS location, they know IP address. Then Facebook says that we collect your name, email address, user ID, address. This is your physical address. So if you are living at 17th floor in a building, Facebook says that we know that you are at 17th floor of this building in this area. And how do they do so? Because they have mapped all your Wi-Fi hotspots. So Google and Facebook, they have mapped all Wi-Fi hotspots. Then they know your phone number, of course. Then political or religious belief. Now this could be controversial. Facebook is saying that I know to whom you voted last time, and or your alignment with a political party, or your religious belief, how hard or soft you are about your religion, or your sexual orientation, which is your very personal thing, and other information. Now these all details, how do they know about you? This is very interesting, that how do they actually get these details from your device, even though you are not very active on your device, even though you are not very active on Facebook. Even then they can find out such kind of details in a very interesting way, and that's what we call AI all about. They know about financial information, user payment info, purchase history, credit score, and other financial information, your health and fitness record, how much you walk in a day, or you're a lazy person, or what is your age, depending on that. If suppose after 2 years you get someone on your doorstep ringing your bell and offering you a medicine that please eat this so that you can save yourself, because kuch ghanton mein aapko heart attack aane wala. Don't get surprised. Ye bhi hoga, and this is possible. Messages, email, SMS, MMS, and other in-app messages, if it is not end-to-end encrypted, they are reading all your messages. Photos and videos, audio, sound recordings. If you are recording your calls, all your recorded calls are shared with Facebook. Why are they interested in your recorded calls? Music files and other audio files, files and docs, calendars, contacts, app activity, app interactions, in-app search history. What are you searching in an app? What have you installed in your phone? Other user-generated content. What do you generate with those apps? And other actions, web browsing histories, app information. If you have installed this Facebook in multiple devices, they are collecting this data from each and every devices, because they collect your mapped it with device IDs as well. Now, this much data, if they about each and every one who is using Facebook, and there are more than 500 crores people, those are using Facebook, 550 crores, 5.5 billion Facebook profiles are there. 5.5 billion Facebook downloads are there, which means 5.5 billion Facebook users on mobile phone. See here, 5 billion plus. So these many mobile users are using Facebook, and this data is going out. It is really interesting. Why are they collecting this data? Because they eventually want to profile each and every one, so they can control your decision making capabilities. And that's why these regulations are important. That's why these frameworks are important. Though we are very late in bringing these things, but never too late. So I always like to start my session with this line that I would love to change this world, but they won't give me the source code. So I truly believe that this entire world is a software program, and we all humans are like artificial intelligence plugins. I'm saying because we are the product of the data that has been fed to us since our birth. We are the product of the data that has been fed to us since our birth. बचपन से लेकर आज तक जो भी डेटा हमें फीड किया गया, हम उस डेटा का प्रोडक्ट। हम कभी ये जानने की कोशिश ही नहीं करते कि हम हैं कौन। And this is very interesting because if I can manipulate this data, I can manipulate you or your decision-making capabilities. And that's what's happening every day. This is already happening. This is already happening in a subtle way, which you have never realized. If you today Google that I want to purchase a car and you would like to compare it with other such cars, same time somebody somewhere around the world, they decide that which car will be sold to you. They take the decision on your behalf. And then whatever you see, whatever you find, the blogs, the comparison, the videos, the advertisement, everything will take you to a particular product. And they'll train your mind eventually, because you start liking that thing based on your budget, because they know your budget as well, your lifestyle, your requirements, everything they already know. So they can force you to take a call, and you will purchase this car after 10-15 days of mammoth research. And then you will say, see, because I did this research, I found logical explanation why I should purchase this car, and that's why I'm purchasing it. And you will be defending that. But at the same time, that other person somewhere around the world, he'll be laughing. Oh, tomorrow I'll be selling him shoes probably. And this is what happening silently, and you don't realize your voting pattern, your purchase pattern, your liking pattern, your all emotions, most of these things are getting controlled through content which you observe every day, and somebody is deciding this on your behalf. And that's what they wanted to do. All these big players, they wanted to control humans eventually through AI. We all have seen AI to ChatGPT. Before ChatGPT, we all know that and AI was used only for analytic purpose. So we have lots of data, and we want to analyze that data. We want to bring out some meaningful predictive analysis out of it. This was the purpose of AI. But after generative pre-trained transformers, this is a new algorithm. ChatGPT is based on that. GPT is generative pre-trained transformer. Now we can create things through AI. We can create things like a human being. And that's what always a debate, that can AI become so sufficient that they can create music, write stories, create poem, or maybe create arts and all. But this all is happening today. So this is ChatGPT, and I'll just show you, if you all are using ChatGPT, very good. If you are not using it, just to give you a potential of this AI and the potential of threat, we should test it. And why I'm showing you ChatGPT, because all these AIs were predicted long back. And that's why these companies were hungry for your data. They were collecting this data because they wanted to develop AI. And the AI just to control you. So now we'll see what AI can do. Write up, I'm just writing a request to ChatGPT. I hope you can see my screen. Write a poem on, probably, I'll give very boring subject so that it will be very difficult to ChatGPT to write a poem. And let's just try that. Write a poem on probably data privacy bill. Can you write a poem on data privacy bill? It's very difficult, but see, ChatGPT will write it. And its consequence on Indian economy. I requested ChatGPT that write a poem on data privacy bill and its consequences on Indian economy. And here it is. If you don't like this poem, you can ask ChatGPT, please rewrite different poem with more emotions. It will rewrite instantly another poem. It can give you thousands poem in a minute if you keep requesting it again and again. So in India's land where dreams unfold, a tale of data privacy bold, a bill emerged, its purpose clear, to guard the data we hold dear. With bytes and bits, our lives at wind, in ones and zeros, secrets confined. The bill arose to set the stage protecting info in this digital age. The sequences deep they do reside in Indian economy's appetite. Privacy ensured a double-edged sword. Both challenges and rewards are stored. Firms adjust to stringent regimes as data flows in newer streams, investments made to secure the gate, reshaping how businesses operate. Fairly good. It would not be easy for any human to write such a poem in such a short time. Now I'll request write a story. And I can give any random subject, write a story on Professor Arjun, and IMPRI, and about students probably, or something. Any random things, we can request anything. And here it is. The story is here. You can give any such topic, random topic, and it will write a story, and then you can re-request that. If you want to create a program, create a schedule of a full day program on cyber security and AI, and it will do all keynotes, panel discussions, topics, lunch break, everything will be properly crafted. Closing remarks, certificates, networking dinner, blah blah blah. There it is. Normally it takes good amount of time for you to decide what should be the topic, what should be the flow and all, but it's done. That's what I just wanted to tell you, that try to understand the potential of data, why we need to make it secure, because once we generate AI out of it, it will disrupt each and every industry, because it is disrupting humans. That's why these frameworks are important. That's why these laws are important. So I'll share this PPT with you. There are multiple such links through which you can test how this data is going out. And not only data privacy, but I really feel the need of having the regulations and the frameworks for all these cutting edge technologies, including quantum computing, metaverse, and AI. We don't have any AI framework or regulations in India. Many countries in the world, they have adopted it. Metaverse, we don't have any framework or regulations for metaverse as well. We don't have any regulations or framework for quantum computing as well. So these are few futuristic things. They will definitely create big chaos in our economy as well as day-to-day life, and that's why it is important. Few surprising researches that I have seen in recent time. AI can predict crime a week in advance with 90% accuracy. So US government has developed a tool which analyzes social media data and can predict that this person is going to commit a crime within a week, in a week advance. Chinese researchers claim to have made AI systems that can read minds, could be used to test loyalty. May look unethical, may look inhuman, but it is happening. It is happening, and many such research are already happening around the world, and we can't stop it. Now, there are AI-based HR interviews, there are AI-based lawyers, there are AI-based doctors, there are AI-based supermodels and all. And there is a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com, if you all have seen it. This person does not exist.com. So it will give you thousands and thousands of such images. Those are created by AI. These people do not exist. And you can use them as models. You can make it more beautiful or whatever the way you want. And they are not there. So criminals, they are using these pictures from these kind of websites, creating social media profiles, posting things on their behalf. They look real, and they create videos also using the same face, create voices also. So eventually we'll have a world where there will be thousands and thousands of, millions and millions of people with real voices, with real faces, but they won't be existing. They are not there in this world. We need a framework, right? how to differentiate that, how to stop it, how to regulate that. And that's why these laws are really, really important. And so for cryptocurrencies, this is another challenge that I see, because crypto, especially the anonymous cryptocurrencies, they give a provision to criminals to transfer money anonymously. And none of the government in the world, they could control these things. And that's why dark web is growing like anything. And it has already become a multi-trillion dollar business market. So we need some regulations, guidelines, especially to host. And these regulations are required at international level as well, because dark web hostings, dark web email server hostings, dark web website hosting, and nodes, these are well managed and supported by many countries in the world, especially the Russian countries, especially the countries those are dependent on these kind of economies, or I call it stolen economies. So all money which is being stolen through different countries, stored there and managed there in cryptos. So that's why we need some international regulations and guidelines also to stop this. I'll take few examples, and then we'll probably take few questions. So, for example, from privacy perspective, we all know, we think that OTP makes us secure. If I'm using OTP, and if you have seen the cases around you, or the guidelines those are recommended by to improve cyber hygiene in an organization, they say don't share OTPs, don't click link, don't open unknown attachment, blah blah blah. These kind of standard guidelines they give. But trust me, friends, none of these guidelines work. None of these. Whatever way you shout that don't give OTPs, nobody is taking your OTPs. There are smart ways to steal your OTPs. If you don't click any link from unknown sources. They are not sending you links through unknown sources now. They are sending you links through known sources now. And the third thing that we normally give as guidelines, that build a zero trust model, and that is becoming difficult because of these data points. And I'll tell you a few such methods through which anybody can take your OTP without touching your phone. They don't need to install a malware in your phone. No technology is required, and they can steal your OTP because of the process breach. So I always say that criminals are innovators, and I have whatever I have learned through criminals. I have been investigating cases since last close to 15 years now. I started in 2008, and this is the core learning that I can share with you, that I have learned. Whatever I have learned through criminals, because every time I solve a case, I find some unusual modus operandi, some process breach, which could not be think by best brains of the industry. Few months back rather, Twitter was acquired by Elon Musk. And within a few weeks, Twitter was hacked. And then FBI started the investigation. FBI arrested 3 kids, 17 years old Nima Fazeli, 19 years old Gaham Ivan Clark from Florida, and a 21 years old kid. These 3 kids were behind this hack. Actually, that 17 years old kid was the hacker. And rest of these 2 guys were selling it in Discord and dark web. So Twitter has a security budget of more than $200 million. We can't assume that they were not using antiviruses or firewalls or intrusion prevention system or intrusion detection system or DLP solutions or SOC systems, whatever is required, even AI-based detection system, they might be using everything. But despite of that, Twitter was hacked. And to my surprise, it was hacked by a 17 years old kid. Then where these $200 million were spent? And Twitter has, I'm sure, best of the brains of the industry. It is happening because we are actually missing out one simple fact. that human minds can be manipulated. And we are protecting us through technologies. Technologies will never be able to protect you. You need some different solution that will come up at the later stage. But as we grow, as we learn, as we become more educated, I think education corrupts us. We become too linear. We become too focused. We don't experiment and we don't try unusual things. And that is something which is creating challenges in our life. So that's why if you search on Google top 10 hackers or top 20 hackers of the world and read about them, and you will find that they have done their best work when they were 17, 18 or 19 years of age, or even less than that. They could not do anything big after that because their data points were limited at that time. The moments they start consuming data points, they become too focused, too linear. And that's what limits our thought process. So I think we need to think, because once the AI will be evolved and becomes a challenge for human race, and right now we are comparing AI with our 10% of brain, because we all use not more than 8 to 10% of our brain. So whatever capabilities we have, these are just because of 8 to 10% of brain uses. And we are comparing current AI with our 8 to 10% of brain capabilities. But I think once the AI will start doing much more human stuff, we will be pushed to use our brain more and more. And that's what I think is required at this time, to change a little bit, tweak our education system. We should not test memories, because we can't beat computers in memory test. We have to diversify there, and we need to create ways so that we can use our brain capabilities more and more, rather than just sticking up to that 8 to 10%. So these are holistic viewpoints from my side when I see these challenges around the world. I was solving a case recently, and you would have heard about it, that a person lost 75 lakhs through missed calls. He got some missed calls and he lost 75 lakhs. And all these television channels, they start creating this, they start promoting this, and created almost panic that now nobody is secure and you will receive missed calls and you will be compromised. All your money will go to unknown accounts. You can't do anything, because who will stop missed call? Missed call to aayegi. So I was defending this all through the day, that please let us investigate this case. Don't create panic and all. But news channel, they do not work like this. They always work other way. So they tried their best. And in next few days, I got this case from Delhi police, and I started the investigation. And the very first thing that we did to scan his phone, the victim's phone, we were thinking there might be some application installed in his phone which was reading OTPs and sending it out. Because there was no OTP in his phone, there was no SMS alert for transactions. There were just missed calls, and the money was transferred to different accounts. So we were assuming there might be some application which was reading these OTPs and deleting it also, so that the user would not be able to see it. So we checked, and you all can do that. Go to your settings, permission manager, there you will get camera, microphone, SMS, all options. Click on SMS and you will see the list of applications those have taken your SMS access. And to my surprise, there was no application in his phone which was taking the SMS access, no application. So we were again shocked. Is it just missed calls which was used to transfer this money? So we have a DCP in Central Delhi, Sachin Sharmaji, and he suggested that, Amit, there might be a possibility that there was an application, but it was uninstalled now, so we can't see it. And I said, yes, sir, this could be a possibility. So we checked his application logs, what all applications were installed recently and uninstalled. And we found one video editing app in his phone, which was installed on Thursday and uninstalled on Sunday. Now, who did this? Who installed this app? Because that application had the SMS access, which means it was reading OTPs and sending it out. But who did this? So we checked his location when this application was installed and when this application was uninstalled. Where was he? So we found that both the times he was at his home. Then it means that somebody who is in his home house has done this. So the first doubt was on his wife. And before asking or discussing this with his wife, we did a smart thing. We just checked the activity list of his wife's phone. Because if his wife has installed this application in his phone, then we wanted to know that what she was doing on her phone. If she was busy on her phone doing some stuff, which means she cannot do the installation, she can't manage two phones simultaneously. And you all can see your activity list of last 15 years. Open your browser, type myactivity.google.com, and it will start showing you your activities of last many years. You can just keep on scrolling and you can see the activity list of any dates. When did you start WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Reel, YouTube, news links, whatever you did in your phone, even made a call or received message, that is logged in your phone of last 15 years since anybody is using a smartphone. I'm assuming that we start using smartphone almost 15 years back. So data is there. We checked his wife's phone and found that she was busy. She was watching something, paid something through Paytm. So she was too busy, which means she cannot do this installation. Then who did this? The next doubt was on his son. And we checked all his devices. We found one of his iPad, which he used to, which was owned by him. So in his iPad, in his son's iPad, we found an application. We call it Discord. And I'm sure many of you know about Discord. Discord is a chat messaging app, just like WhatsApp, Facebook, WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal. But Discord is anonymous chat messaging app. When you create an account on Discord, it is not linked with your mobile number or your email ID. So you can communicate with the entire world without revealing your identity. You are absolutely anonymous. And that is the reason most of these criminals nowadays, they are on Discord. Most of these kids, teenagers are on Discord. I don't know why, but they are there. And many more guys, those are in illegal stuff. Because this gives them anonymity. And when any platform becomes anonymous, it becomes a boon for illegal activities. So these kids are on Discord because they get cracked games, streaming games, passwords of various platforms, OTT channels and all, hacked passwords, and many interesting stuff on Discord. So when we checked his Discord, we found that he was communicating with a girl. He was thinking that that was a girl, but I'm sure he was a criminal. And this girl suggested him that you install this app in your father's phone and you will get 200 Robux points. And this is something which we assume actually, that whenever we install an application, we get something free. Installing Ola, Uber, getting first ride free. Zomato, first pizza free, or whatever is their offering. So it has become our mindset that, okay, if this application I install in my father's phone, I'll get some Robux points free. And what is a Robux point? Just like PUBG has a currency, battle points. Similarly, Roblox game. Kids used to play Roblox game nowadays. Very popular game. It's a base for metaverse. So Roblox currency is Robux. And in greed of 200 Robux points, this kid has installed this application, unknown application, in his father's phone. And then later this lady asked him to uninstall it also once this money is transferred, because she was sure that I'll get it reinstalled again after some days, and again we'll use to siphon some money. 200 Robux points. And what is this Robux points? I was doing one investigation with a central agency, and we were checking all the devices of a suspect, laptop, mobile phones, hard disks, pen drives, desktops, to find any cryptocurrency evidence that this person is using cryptocurrencies, because he was suspected to be involved in some money laundering process. So we checked all his devices, we didn't find anything, nothing. And then when we scanned his phone, we got a game and Roblox, and there he had Robux points of worth 6.5 crores, 6.5 crores worth of Robux points in his mobile game. And then we realized that Robux is heavily used in money laundering. And that's something which most of the law enforcement officers are unaware of. So every day these patterns, methodologies, modus operandi are getting changed, and we still rely on old investigation techniques, and that's why there is a big gap. The regulations, those are there in India. We are still following IT Act or IT Act upgradation of 2008 and 2012. Then there were some IT guidelines. Those were released in last 4 years. So in 2019, 20, 21, 22, we have 4 guidelines. And now we are coming up with data privacy bill. These guidelines were made because the data privacy bill was delayed, and we faced some challenges because of gaming apps. So there is a special gaming guidelines. Then MITI released some crypto guidelines. They released some guidelines for OTT platforms and social media apps, social media guidelines. So every year we were coming up with some regulatory framework, pushing these platforms to get aligned with law enforcement agencies to curb this crime. But the guidelines are just guidelines. Guidelines do not have any penalty provisions. Guidelines may not force a player to that extent that it will become a criminal offense. So that's why the impact of these guidelines were limited. But now we are coming up with data privacy bill, which has penalty provisions, which has prosecution provisions, which has criminal provisions also. And that's why this bill is very, very important. Today, when you share your data with someone, you always have this doubt in your mind that this data could go to wrong hands. And this wrong person can use it against you. After this bill, these kind of practices will definitely be restricted. Whoever will be taking your data, they'll be responsible to protect that. And if data breach happens, they'll be penalized to a core of 50 crores to 250 crores of penalty provisions. So with this, I'll stop here. I can take few questions because I have a next session scheduled training for judges. So I can't delay it much, but judges mujhe prosecute kar denge. So please, in next few minutes, if there are any questions, we can take it. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Arjun sir, and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening session. The discussion today prompted profound introspection on technology and privacy in this digital era. Now I would like to request our chair, Professor Vibhuti ma'am, to share her remarks.
Yeah, I think thank you, Shri Amit Dubey, because most of us are technophobe and technology challenged, but you have really enlightened us and thrown light on an extremely scary scenario, which I think it looks like some horror film. But main thing, because people like us who are in public domain and in so many trust OTPs, most of the time everything happens through remote, and how it can be misused with it. But I have seen many people who are extremely jubilant that it is a democratizing influence. Students are so happy that now they can do their project work. You just put in some keywords and you get everything ready. You don't have to even go to the library and all. So even I have heard even senior citizens were boasting about AI, no? So
Correct.
what will be your message and advice to them?
See, first of all, we should definitely adopt it. We should not avoid, because these things, otherwise you will be kept behind. And we should use this positively. We are too busy in petty things, doing petty things every day. I think we are not made for those things. Creating schedules for that. I have shown you some of this stuff, or responding to emails, and these are standard responses. Yesterday, I wanted to write a message, an emotional message to someone. I just asked ChatGPT, this is the situation, can you give me an emotional message in Hindi? And it quickly gave a very beautiful message. And I'm really enjoying that. Then, and I'm too honest to share this, that the Observer magazine, they asked me to write an article on quantum computing. I was too busy. And they were pushing me, sir, we need to submit it tomorrow and please give it. And I just get it done through ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, write an article on quantum computing with pros and cons and impact on Indian economy. And it wrote, and in 2000 words, it wrote me very beautiful article. I didn't even read it. I copy pasted that article and submitted to the Observer. They published it next day. And they paid me money. And then they shared with me the link also that, okay, this article is published. You can circulate it in your friends. I posted it on my social media. And then my friend starts commenting, what an article, beautiful article, you have elaborated everything. Then I became curious. Oh, I should read it. And then I read that article. It was really good. So the idea is, I'm in a lighter mode. I'm just telling you that there are many things that we can easily do. We don't need to
But
push
nobody
our...
caught you for plagiarism.
No, because see, there is no plagiarism. You can, when you write an article through ChatGPT, you request ChatGPT, remove plagiarism, and it will remove.
Oh.
And it will always give you a new article. Suppose I request it again that I need a new, this is not good. It will write a fresh article. It will write a fresh article without plagiarism. So you can write 1,000 articles in a minute with all zero plagiarism.
Oh.
Then why would human be doing this job in future? Think about it. Why should we do? Because there's no plagiarism at all. Even if human might be doing it, they would copy it from somewhere. Because we can't write 2000 words all of a sudden without referring anything. So this is my point, that now we need to think again about our education system and the things that we do in day-to-day life. Script, film script. People are taking help of ChatGPT writing film script, creating scenes, and it does it beautifully. Now, what I expect in future, that because of our education system, we have limited human brains to do things which is monotonous, which is not justifying the potential of our brain. And that's where our brain evolution is not stopped. It is 8 to 10%. When we see mind readers, when we see people, those have built a spatial skills that they can read your mind, they can tell you things about someone. We get surprised. How can do they so? But they have used their brain to achieve that skill. We could also do that. Suppose if we all build that skill that we can read minds, we don't need to communicate. We don't need to waste word. We can read minds. At least 20-30% of the emotions we can read. What a beautiful world will be. We are getting so much noise unnecessarily, shouting on people, and so we should build those skills now. And AI will push us in that direction. That now we should start using our mind more and more. Hopefully, we will start training kids in schools for mind reading capabilities for such things in future. I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam to share her remarks.
Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening presentation. But just one thing, like since you talked about this crime which is happening where the kids, where this money from the Indian bank account is being taken out by somebody sitting in US or somewhere else. So at the global level, are we having some kind of arrangements? Because generally in the criminal cases, we have seen in other kinds of cases that dealing with other countries, it's not easy if the criminal is there. So if are we having some kind of strategy for this kind of prevention of crimes?
We have AMLET in place, but these AMLETs are very complicated to execute. So, and the kind of crimes that we see every day, somebody lost 4 lakhs rupees, 5 lakhs rupees, and then pursuing the channel, AMLAC channel to reach to that criminal is very difficult. It's not that efficient. And they ask so many questions by the time criminal take the advantage of that delay and they run away somewhere. They delete. I'm sorry, I have to rush because I have to start another session. So extremely sorry, but unfortunately, there's no such international smooth framework available to handle the situations of financial frauds and all. And that's why criminals are taking advantage of it. We'll discuss this in detail probably.
Okay. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Nikita?
Yes, ma'am. Sir won't be taking any more questions.
No. Now it'll be, sir has left. Yes.
Fine. So I request our chair to give her closing remarks for the session.
Yeah. I think today's all three sessions were extremely useful because for the first time, we had such an exhaustive threadbare analysis of the most vital issue for the human development and human capital formation, which is investment in education and investment in health. And I think both the sectors are facing massive privatization. And also it has also increased the gap between those in terms of accessibility. And I think many important questions, like both the speakers also gave the chronological thing, right from the colonial times when the foundation of modern education was laid from Macaulay's time till the latest national education policy, critical examination and reflection was done. And when it came to education, health, right from the recommendations of Board Committee in 1946 till the latest new various bills, Mental Health Act and new National Health Policy second time, which was come. And various schemes and programs were also examined and, by Dr. Sanghamitra Acharya. And the last one, which was the first time we have on IMPRI's platform, we have discussed data protection in these 25 lectures that we have had. But I think today's session was very useful because it has given us a lot of food for thought and also the further probing that we need to do. As consumer of data, at one level, we are very jubilant that the internet and social media has democratized the way. Now education is not monopoly of handful of microscopic minority who call themselves the elite, intellectual elite, but there is a massification of education and knowledge and information that has taken place. It has had its own positive dimension, but at the same time, new threats that we are facing at the industry 5.0 stage, where artificial intelligence is name of the game. So I think this session and the readings right there, all the three of them have given to us will really expand our horizons about education, health, and how the technology is shaping the life of people in this 21st century knowledge economy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. With the chair's permission, we can go for the vote of thanks.
Yeah, please go ahead.
As we come to the end of Day 24 of Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship, an online national summer school program, a 2-month online immersive legal awareness and action research certificate training course and internship program, I, Nikita Bhardwaj, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of IMPRI, New Delhi. We are grateful to our experts for the Day 24 session, Professor Sanghamitra Acharya, Dr. Y. Suresh Reddy, and Shri Amit Dubey, for taking out their valuable time and giving us an opportunity to learn from this online certificate program. We thank our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, and lead advisor, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, for convening the session. We thank all of our participants who have raised pertinent questions and actively participated in today's deliberation. We look forward to welcoming you coming Monday, that is 7th August at 11:30 a.m. for our Day 25 of this certification course by distinguished experts, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam and Advocate Sanchita N. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications. We hope you continue to join in future to our IMPRI #Web Policy Talk and #Web Policy Learning. Wishing you a good day. Thank you.